Last night in Grozny was a night like any other. Fires burned where buildings had been hit by Russian artillery fire. Plumes of smoke rose from the centre of the city. But this time the Chechen fighters, who've held the city for 2 months against overwhelming odds, had had enough. It was time, they decided, to head for the hills. They're still holding some small areas of Grozny, but the pullout from the city by the Chechen rebels is a deeply symbolic event, and the Russians will make the most of it. But this war may be far from over. The Chechen spin on today's events is that Grozny is a city no longer worth defending.
They're leaving, but very ordinarily. Everything's being organized. They're leaving the city. They're going to keep a few fighters just to make a bloody nose for Russia to really, to make them really suffer for every building they take. But basically, they have no more reason to stay in Grozny. Grozny is a dead city. It's destroyed by them, created by the Russians. So they can, that's destroyed by the Russians again. So that's ironic, isn't it?
The fight the Chechens put up in Grozny leaves the Russians with few doubts about their ability to keep going now, as they move into a mountainous, forested terrain ideal for guerrilla warfare.
We might expect hit-and-run operations of various kinds. This is, if you like, a military tradition with the Chechens. They could attack outlying Russian military posts. They could attack Russian military depots. They could attack local officials and individual Russian soldiers, that kind of thing.
Even before today, Chechen forces were withdrawing to Gudermish, a town to the east of Grozny near the border with Dagestan. A major battle around Gudermish now looks likely. And as the war moves into a guerrilla phase, fighting is likely to increase in the mountains to the south of Chechnya. Towns like Shali have already been attacked by the Russian Air Force, as have southern villages like Achkoy Martan and Bamut, the home of Dzhokhar Dudayev, the Chechen leader. But the Russians have anticipated the move to the countryside. For several weeks now there have been rocket attacks on villages outside Grozny and fierce battles as columns of Russian troops make forays into the villages to flush out the rebels. There will be a guerrilla war. It's less clear how extensive it will be and how long it will last. The Mujahideen of Afghanistan have provided a model for the fighters of Chechnya. The Afghans wore down and eventually defeated the might of the Red Army in what became a holy war against communism. These warriors are confident they can wear down the Russian army and draw the other Caucasian peoples into a crusade against Moscow.
I think they are thinking about it, and they're very appalled about it. They haven't yet reacted, but they will eventually. And I think Russia's made a big mistake, because what they could have kept, these republics in the Federation, they're going to lose them because of what they've done in Grozny.
But for all the Chechens' fervour, this is not Afghanistan. Military analysts believe simple geography will work against Dudayev and his army.
Chechnya is much smaller than Afghanistan, and the mountainous part of Chechnya is a smaller part of Chechnya in general. And if they could have gone to the mountains, most likely they'd have gone a long time ago, instead of involving the Russian army in a pitched battle of attrition, where, of course, the Russian army won.
That confidence was reflected today among Russia's armed forces and the Russian government. The government said a new civil administration might move to Grozny tomorrow. And it said it would begin pulling the army out, leaving Interior Ministry troops to control Chechnya. That was supposed to happen on January the 20th, but it remains an important political goal for Moscow.
In that case, it will be clear that what they are doing in Chechnya is re-establishing the constitution in a part of the Federation, that they are not, in fact, waging a war against a part of the people. And this is, it's very important that the operation in Chechnya from now on is seen as essentially police action.
And Chechen politics could undermine the guerrilla campaign. Some villages have already said they don't want Chechen fighters to move in for fear of Russian air attacks. And the Russians may well now try to split the Chechens from each other along traditional clan lines, the classic divide and rule policy which won the Caucasus for Russia in the first place. But this is a war in which the Russians have not just damaged Chechnya, they've damaged themselves. The campaign in Chechnya has left Russia's rulers with egg all over their faces. Pavel Grachov, the defence minister, said the war would be over in 2 days. Boris Yeltsin has presented the Chechens as outlaws and bandits, a stance which has lost him the support of his former allies among the country's pro-Western Democrats. They now say this war could lead to a military coup and the end of democracy. But 2 months into this war, the fact is that most of the alarmist predictions made by the Democrats in Parliament have not come true. There has been no military coup, and despite some authoritarian moves in Moscow, much of the Russian media has denounced the war in the most vitriolic terms, and little has been done to stop it. Yeltsin has not cancelled parliamentary elections due this year or next year's presidential election, and blood-curdling forecasts that the Russian Federation would fall apart in bloody conflict have so far proved wide of the mark. The case for saying that Boris Yeltsin is just Leonid Brezhnev without the Communist Party remains far from proven. But the principal stain on Boris Yeltsin's reputation comes from the blood shed in Chechnya.
I think what Yeltsin's done is absolutely scandalous. He's killed his own people. I mean, how can you do in the 20th century, supposedly on a democratic system, destroy a whole city, destroy its civilians?
But whatever the outcome on the battlefield, for years to come, Grozny will haunt the dreams of Russia's young democracy.